Not every moment on your trip is going to be out of a Pinterest board, but what it is going to be is raw and authentic. What it is going to be is full of substance. So in this video, you're not going to get travel tips or things like that. Maybe I'll make another one with stuff like that, but this one's really just a reflection, okay? And you know, I get to kind of share what I learned about solo tripping and about how it's kind of changed and transformed me. All right, well, let's get into it. I started off this year pretty down low, and although I don't have too many, let's just say, tangible or conventional successes to talk about, I feel like a whole different person, bro. Like, I feel like I went through the most this year, and I've grown and evolved a whole other level. Like, if this year was an escape room, I would be like halfway through it, getting that momentum going, and I haven't used any hints. So like that adrenaline's pumping. Do you get what I mean? What I'm trying to say is that I really pushed through this year, and I evolved, and I solved things, and I overcame obstacles, and I built momentum to the point where the game of life, let's just say, got kind of fun. And I think a big part and a big highlight of this year, and a big contribution to my growth this year, was my solo trip to Japan. Alright, the first thing right off the bat, I'm gonna say that I learned while traveling to Tokyo and Osaka. I spent 14 days there, right? Like, in total. And what I learned was that I am, and most people are, braver than they think, smarter than they think. I genuinely believe our body carries intelligence that we only really tap into when we're faced kind of like with a survival mode situation. So I wasn't in any kind of danger or anything while I was in Japan. Japan's one of the most safest places on earth, really. But there are situations, right? Like, for example, your battery dies. You're in the middle of a city that's hours away from your hotel. What do you do next? What I've learned is that you have to lean in to the obstacle, lean into the problem, and allow your brain to tap into its natural state of problem solving. What will happen when you're faced with these type of situations is that your mind will get creative. Asking for help, suddenly you're not an introvert anymore, right? You overcome and you get past your fears really quickly when you're in survival mode. And I feel like the more you go on these type of adventures and put yourselves in new situations, the more you'll give the universe the opportunity to teach you and guide you and bring you to realizations, revelations. You'll just realize that nothing's set in stone. There's no, I am an introvert, so I don't talk to people, or I am socially anxious. There's not really any I ams. Like, you can be whatever you tell your mind to be. Okay, I got really deep there, but really what I'm trying to say is that whatever limit you feel like you have right now that on yourself, you don't. It's all just in your head. Like, you can push past anything. Another lesson I learned was that people are actually way kinder than you think. But I also believe people are what you think. So if you believe that the world is a negative and mean place, you might find that you're encountering a lot of people that are negative and mean and push you away. Whereas if you believe genuinely that people are kind, then that's what you'll find. I also think everyone craves interaction and everyone craves connection. So if you ever get a chance to strike up a conversation with someone, you should. So for example, on my train from Osaka back to Tokyo, I sat next to an older Japanese woman. Automatically the brain makes assumptions, right? She's older, she probably doesn't know any English. She's smiling at me, but is there a point striking up a conversation? I mean, what would we really even have in common? What would we talk about? She probably doesn't know English. I don't know any Japanese. Also, like, this is gonna be a lot of work, and then, you know, train ride is so long. How are we gonna keep the conversation going? I mean, there's so many barriers, but I'm so glad that I tapped into this part of me that was like, I'm open to whatever comes next, and I got curious. Curiosity made the cat who she is. What I'm trying to say is that I struck up the conversation with this Japanese woman, and she had so much to tell me. She was actually learning English, and she thought this was the perfect opportunity to practice with me. She asked me a lot about Canada. She had visited the city that I live in. She talked about her kids. She talked about how she lives alone and she loves adventuring, and how she also went on her fair share of solo trips. Wow, she was amazing and so fun to talk to, and I learned so much from her. So shout out to her. I'm really glad I had that little, you know, story to tell at the end of my trip. It's not every day that I would encounter someone that's maybe twice my age and strike up a conversation with them. What an amazing opportunity to learn and connect with someone. So another really important lesson that I learned in Japan was how to take care of myself truly. Almost like reparenting. When you're on your solo trip, you have to have a plan, or like, what are you gonna do all day, right? So I knew what I wanted to do every single day. However, there were times when I felt really horrible. Here's the thing about solitude. There's a very fine line between loneliness and solitude. Because I'm spending so much time with myself, and therefore in my mind, I think it was the second day, third day that I was there, I really got down. I was really low. I was crying, right? And I was like, why did I do this? Why am I here all by myself? There's no one to talk to. Like, why did I do this? And everything's hard. I have to figure out everything by myself. You know, I have to, and you know, I am an only child, so I have done a lot of things on my own for a long time. But I think the real difference between taking a trip all by yourself is that there's really no escaping yourself. And so here I am in the middle of my little tiny hotel bedroom, my bed scattered with snacks, obviously the Japanese ones, where I went there really. And I'm just like bawling my eyes out. But there's one thing in that moment that I thought that changed my entire year, and that is asking myself the question, what do you need in this moment? Not if only I had, if only I had, if only I had, but in this moment, what can I give myself to make myself feel better? And that, my friend, is reparenting. Because the person who was crying was like not an adult. It's probably, you know, like a child who feels exhausted and lost. And so asking myself, what do I need? Again and again, opened up my brain. Here's how I did that. I had a lot planned, excursions and whatnot, but there were days where I felt like I've been spending way too much time on my own. And as human beings, we need connection. We need to spend time with other people. And so asking myself what I needed allowed me to become more resourceful. So I could kind of cancel the plans for the day and be like, you know what, I am going to instead plan more group. So I'll sign up for group trips or group activities where I increase the chances of me meeting new people. And that's what I did. It was really fun. I went on food tours and I met people. I went on excursions to Mount Fuji, for example, where I made lifelong friends, because on those 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour bus rides, you end up talking to the people around you. Imagine all the different things that would have had to happen for that person from that side of the world and for you from wherever you are to make the decision to meet at this in Tokyo or in Japan at this time, at this place, at this moment. Wow, like, talk about butterfly effect, right? So you already have so many things connecting you. And I think that was what I found so beautiful about this journey. All right, and I think the last little thing that I want to talk about here is powering through. So I really learned the art of surrender. Here's one thing you should definitely know about Japan. There's a lot of walking. Japan is an extremely well-connected place. There are trains, buses, everything's very, very, very well organized. So I ended up taking a lot of public transportation. However, and because there's so many avenues, so many pathways to take, you actually end up walking so much. Now, there were days where I took the wrong train or the wrong bus and ended up way too far from where I intended to go, and I had no choice but to walk. And on those days, it would be pouring, or it would be extremely windy. And as someone traveling solo, it might not make sense to take a break. In those moments, there's really not much you can do but just put one more foot forward. You're exhausted, you're tired, but as long as you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you'll eventually get to your destination. And so in those moments, I really learned to kind of surrender to whatever was happening in the moment. I surrender to the choices that I had in front of me, and just let it happen. Just be really in the present moment and go on the adventure that was calling me. Eventually I did get to my destination. It's tough. It was really hard, but it gets easier if you just let go of the resistance. What this means is that you stop cursing. Like, you stop saying things like, I wish things were different, I wish I had this, I wish I had that, this sucks, public transportation sucks here, blah 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 blah. You could do all that, but it would make the journey so much harder. So it's better if you just surrender and just enjoy and be in the present moment, and know that as long as you're putting one foot in front of the other, you'll eventually get to your destination. To summarize my entire 14-day experience, I'd say the biggest thing I learned was to be open to whatever comes next. Can you really embrace the present moment and throw whatever you had anticipated and excitement for this moment out the window? Not every moment on your trip is going to be out of a Pinterest board, all romanticized and beautiful. But what it is going to be is raw and authentic. What it is going to be is full of substance and full of life. If you just let it be only what it is and you surrender. That's what I'm gonna leave you with. Thank you for surrendering to this video, and I will see you in the next one.